All right, it's our final segment this morning with Clint Kelly, malpractice attorney. Look, if you want to jump in, give us a call. We got a couple lines open, 737-7587. Remind folks where your office is.
I'm in Hendersonville,
okay,
but I take cases all over the state of Tennessee, so that's our headquarters, but we take cases in different state courts all across Tennessee.
And is it predominantly state courts? Do you do federal court sometimes?
Yeah, I do some federal cases.
Okay.
It's rare that you have a malpractice case in a federal court unless you've got citizens from other states. But I've had cases in Memphis, Knoxville. I got one right now, which is a little bedroom community of Chattanooga. It's simply because there's so few of us handling this work that we have to be able to take cases everywhere.
Okay, and just to remind folks, standard for a lot of attorneys in a lot of different types of personal injury, malpractice, Clint doesn't get paid unless you get paid. Because a lot of folks can say, look, I'm hurt, I'm suffering here, I can't hire an attorney. So remind them how this works.
Exactly. So the patient pays nothing unless we recover money for the patient. So all the patient has to do is engage me and let me investigate. And if the case has merit, I file the lawsuit and the patient just needs to get better.
Right.
You know, and worry about that. And I worry about trying to get them money that will help them move on.
And that's one reason that you have to be selective in the cases you take, because It's very expensive to litigate these cases. And you've said in the past, folks who actually you thought had been wrong to some degree, but the nature of the injuries and all of that didn't rise to the level where you can take it, because of course you have to make a living too, but I mean, it's just something also that the hospitals may not have paid for. It's not high enough.
I mean, Nick, I can spend up to $100,000 getting a case to trial, maybe $150,000 to try it. If the patient's injury is only worth $50,000 or $75,000, it's not cost effective. I can't afford to do it. It doesn't make any sense. And unfortunately, the way the system's built right now, we don't have an effective way to compensate people who have what I call temporary injuries or low value injuries.
Yeah, and what's a low value? You can say low value,
it's low value,
unless it's you, and you're like, wait a second, low value, I'm out of work for 2 months.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry, was it Beverly, did you say? Beverly, good morning. Hi, Beverly.
Hi.
How can we help you, ma'am?
I fell about, it was April 30th. I fell and my leg went around the commode. Lay there an hour, and when the paramedics got there, they had to re-break my leg to get it out from around the commode. And I was taken to Skyline. When I got there, they did emergency surgery. And I've had 3 since then. And to turn out, I have one leg shorter than the other one. I broke my femur, which is what you know what that is.
Yeah.
And it's been. I'm still 10 months going on, and I'm still in a wheelchair. It's just been, it's been really, and I'm still in a lot of pain, but I'm only taking ibuprofen.
Okay.
I'm not anything stronger.
All right, and do you think, is there something that makes you think maybe you weren't handled properly, besides the fact it's taking you a while to heal?
Well, he did a surgery on the femur, and then they had to take that out and put in a cadaver.
Okay.
And I've had 3 surgeries, and now I have one leg shorter than the other, about 2.5 inches. And I can't walk.
Okay.
And,
hang on just a sec. Hang on. Clint has a question for you.
Yeah. You said you've had 3 surgeries. Are these all on the femur? All the surgeries have been concentrated on the femur?
As far as I know, I really have not had face-to-face with the doctor.
Okay, so, all right, well, hang on a sec. So what do you think, Clint? Now, she suffered a catastrophic injury.
Yeah.
The fact that her leg may be shorter, it's taking her several months to heal. Just from the outside looking in, I'm like, well, that doesn't surprise me, because that sounded horrible. And I really sympathize with this woman.
Yeah, I wanted to confirm that where she's having the surgery. Let me tell you something, Nick. Femur breaks are notoriously difficult to handle.
Okay.
They're just tough. okay, and you can have multiple surgeries to try to get it right. The cadaver is not unusual.
Yeah, get a tendon
or the bone. You know, using a lot of times they'll put a nail. They call it an intermedullary nail, and they'll stick it inside of the femur to basically create a new bone. But the long story short is, I'm not surprised with the difficulty that Beverly's had recovering from this, because there's some patients who have to have repeated surgeries to get that femur correct. And I'll tell you, if you look at this from a malpractice standpoint, it's going to be hard to prove that a doctor messed up a femur repair. Just saying.
Yeah, and I guess her call, and again, I sympathize with her situation, but I guess this is a good time to point out, all right, bad result doesn't necessarily mean you have a case. Doctors are not miracle workers, and as you said, femurs, and this breaks down to, she was around the toilet stool, and her leg had to be rebroken, and the poor thing, I can't imagine, but that's catastrophic.
It sounds like a really bad injury that required a lot of heavy work, and as you said, just because you have a bad outcome or a difficult outcome does not mean that you were the victim of malpractice. The doctors may have complied with the standard of care. So, you know, Nick, standard of care is pretty low. I mean, it's basically, it is what's deemed to be acceptable care. It's a low floor. But people have bad outcomes from medical care all the time, and the doctors did, or the nurses did what they were supposed to. So, you know, just from what she's telling me, that's going to be a difficult case to prove, if in fact it is a case. I
wanted to ask you this real quick, because we've had a couple programs on this recently with, you know, the measles outbreaks and all this. It raises questions about vaccines, and I'm not asking about, even though I'm a firm believer that vaccines are positive, I know not everyone is, and it's not always for everyone, but there are lawsuits sometimes filed with regard to bad results from vaccines. I understand there was even one of our callers when we did the show talking about a fund, a federal fund that's been set up. So your take on this in terms of suing if you feel that you've been damaged by a vaccine. What do you think?
There is a fund, Nick. It's a federal fund that you can tap into if you meet specific criteria for having been injured as a result of a vaccine. Now, it is beyond my level of expertise to comment on whether a claim is viable, how you go about doing it. There are attorneys who specialize in handling vaccine compensation cases, and they're not hard to find because they're federal cases. So these lawyers aren't hard to find. I know very, very little about this other than I agree with you. I'm a firm believer in vaccines. Vaccines work. They've been proven to work, and they continue to work. There's always going to be a small sliver of people who have bad reactions to it, but the number is tiny compared to the other people whose lives are saved or who have afflictions that are prevented because of vaccines.
For me, that's very well said. Couldn't agree with you more. As we wrap things up, anything happening this legislative session with regard to tort law?
I haven't heard a thing.
Okay, I was just wondering, because you're always talking about how they keep making it harder for us to sue these things, and anything really on tap, to your knowledge, one way or the other?
No, and I know you said you may have read somewhere where there might be more malpractice cases, but Nick, in Tennessee, the number of cases is just small.
Oh, is that right?
So I don't think there's been any impetus in the legislature to take another whack at us.
It was medical negligence claims between January 17 and 18, March of 18. I'm not sure. It's from a health department. What is Gauteng? I don't know what that is, but saying that some of the legal claims were up modestly. But you're saying in Tennessee that does not appear to be the case.
When was the last time you read about a medical malpractice verdict in a newspaper?
Yeah, I can't think, or on our newscast, and I can't think of one flat out along those lines.
They're rare. Most cases settle nowadays, and there's so few of them, you just don't see it anymore.
All right, as we wrap things up, just remember, folks, if you were watching today or you know someone who's in a situation, don't wait on it. Make a call. You have a 1-year statute of limitations. Clint's office will tell you one way or another if you have a case. Clint?
Free and confidential.
Exactly. Confidential.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you, my friend. You take care of yourself. We'll take a break. I'll be back with a programming note about tomorrow right after this.